Hello dreamers, this is Maya Joy KahNah, and in today's video we are going to discuss having your North Node in the third house. Now, to know for sure whether your North Node is in the third house, you will need to generate your full natal chart, and I will link a place below where you can do that. Once you have your chart, you want to look and see if the symbol that looks like an upside down horseshoe, you want to see where that is in your chart. And if it falls in the sort of pie slice that's down near the bottom left, and the one that says number 3 in the corner, then that means that your North Node is in the third house. Okay, so if your North Node is in the third house, it means that you are actually coming from a past life in which you were focusing on ninth house themes. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you are likely coming out of a lifetime where you were very focused on some sort of long journey. It could very well have been that you were actually focused on like traveling the world, like an explorer, or traveling to distant lands. You may be coming from a lifetime in which you were very interested in foreign cultures, maybe even being some sort of researcher or ambassador. The ninth house is about long traveling. It's also about philosophy and higher learning. So if your North Node falls in the third house and you have this sort of ninth house karma, you may be coming from a lifetime in which you were on this quest to find the truth, by which I mean truth with a capital T. And that could mean that you have come into this lifetime with very strong viewpoints. That may be strong viewpoints about science or about religion or about spirituality, or you may come into this lifetime feeling like you have a little bit more wisdom than other people your same age, or that you have a little bit more knowledge or a better understanding of what is actually true. Ninth house people tend to be those who are very, very knowledgeable and who are very intelligent and who are part of that sort of society of intelligentsia. And so you're coming from a lifetime of that. And so in order to balance that, what you need to do with your North Node in the third house is you actually need to let go of all those things. I know that might sound crazy, but you actually need to let go of this need to distinguish yourself, and instead you want to become more like the people who are in your community. You want to get a little bit more comfortable with those in your immediate environment. So if your North Node's in the third house, in past lives you probably escaped your problems through one of two ways: either just getting out and just getting on an airplane and just going somewhere else, or you probably escaped your problems by going on like an internal journey, by sort of connecting with a higher power, by going within, by sort of disassociating from those around you and finding your own connection that way. And so in this lifetime, what you actually want to focus on is like, what is literally going on around me right now? And your life purpose is going to depend on you actually being plugged into the pulse of your immediate neighborhood. So the ninth house, the opposite of the third house, has to do with long distant journeys. And if your North Node was in the ninth house, it would be a great idea to actually try to get a job abroad or to try to be a foreign ambassador of some sort. But if you have your North Node in the third house, you want to think about, okay, how can I take my life's purpose? How can it serve this community that I live in right now? Like basically within, say, 20 miles of your actual house, or even closer to that, like within a 10-mile radius of where you live. How can you serve your purpose in that community? And to know what your purpose is, you want to look at your North Node sign. That's going to tell you what sort of occupation you're aiming for. And then having that in the third house means how are you going to, or where are you going to fulfill this purpose? And then the answer becomes within your immediate sort of neighborhood that you're living in. Another thing that could be indicated by having your North Node in the third house is that you may have a need to have close relationships with your siblings. If you have siblings in this lifetime, it could indicate a sort of karmic debt to siblings, where in a past life maybe you had the same sibling, but you just kind of pieced out and did your own thing in that lifetime, and now maybe you have that same sibling again, and this time maybe they're dependent on you in some way, or they need your help, or you need their help or something. But if your North Node is in the third house, this could even be that you actually work for a sibling, or that you found a business together, or that somehow the fulfillment of your purpose is going to involve those people that are close around you. You're going to need the support or input from those in your immediate neighborhood, your siblings, your actual physical neighbors, people that you have interaction with all the time in your immediate environment, okay? You need to be very flexible with what you know. You may feel that you have a higher relationship to the truth, or this higher truth, than other people around you, but this lifetime isn't about pursuing that higher truth, believe it or not. This lifetime is about learning the little things, about learning how are people doing things right now, what's fashionable, what's hot, what are people talking about. It's really a lifetime in which you have to be open to learning new things, because third house is like just little facts that we gather about life. It's not about the quest for the ultimate truth. Your success is going to depend on the extent to which you can strike up conversations with the people who live around you. Your success is also going to depend on how well you can ask questions. With North Node in the third house, you need to ask questions and gather facts. It's not a good idea to assume that you know what is going on with someone else, or just assume that you know the truth. It's best to approach life with an incredible amount of curiosity. If your North Node's in the third house, depending on the sign, I mean, you could become even a journalist, or somebody who asks questions for a living, or somebody who's directly involved in communications for a living, like writing, interviewing, anything like that. Even speaking, teaching, like speaking for a living, or something that's going to be very communication heavy, because the third house is the house of communications, of not the house of the communications that regular people can't understand because they are so complex, but it's the house of the communications that everybody can understand. It's the house of the general communications, the questions that we ask all the time, but we don't really think about. Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you? How are you? How was your weekend? How's the weather? How do you feel about this new style trend that's coming up? Like, stuff like that. Those are the types of questions that you want to ask. As weird as that might actually sound, that's part of the reason why you're here, is to fit in and to be a part of that local conversation. You want to be open to those who challenge your viewpoints. So if somebody says, hey, I know you believe this, but have you ever thought of it that way? Instead of like tensing up, you want to get curious about the way that other people are seeing the world. With your North Node in the third house, you probably want to travel abroad, or go, visit like the 7 wonders of the world, or things like that. But with North Node in the third house, it's actually best to have more of like a staycation, or to actually, visit places that are right around wherever you live. The sort of local hotspots and things like that people are talking about. Go to those places and see what the magic is all about. You need to know what's hot and what is current. So you could have North Node in the third house, and let's say that your North Node is in Taurus, and maybe you're a massage therapist, or maybe you actually sell a new cookie that you developed, right? You have this Taurus sort of thing going on. Well, in order to succeed with your North Node in the third house, you're going to need to know, how can you communicate about your product or your service in a way that's going to capture the attention of just regular everyday people who are walking around the street. It's that sort of one sentence, that sensational kind of phrase that gets people in, and you need to know those phrases. You need to know how to use the media tools as well. If your North Node's in the third house, you need to probably actually use like social media and know what trends are current on Instagram, or make that 60-second YouTube video. You don't want to make that 60-minute YouTube video that talks in depth about why your purpose is so amazing and provides all the information, you want to make that 60-second or less YouTube video that's like, I do this, that's cool, I do that, that's cool, and here's a picture, and you gotta try it, it's awesome, it's hot, la 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 la. That's third house. Like, that's what you want to do to advertise your life's purpose. Little facts. You just put out the little factoids that are going to be interesting to everyone. That's going to help you succeed. So let's say your North Node is in the third house, and maybe you went away, and maybe you went to college, and maybe you went far away to college, and you studied education, and you have a doctorate degree. If your North Node's in the third house and that was your experience, it's important that you come back and you use that doctorate degree or master's degree or bachelor's degree or whatever it is. Take your skills and bring them back and give back to your local community. Maybe you studied higher education and it might be your destiny to actually then become the principal of the elementary school that you went to when you were a little kid. Something like that is going to be the scenario of North Node in the third house. You need to communicate in a way that other people are going to be able to understand. This may involve even studying a little bit about communications or marketing, but it's important to spend a lot of time like learning, reading, writing, and even things like just texting, seeing how your friends and neighbors are doing, those quick calls where there's not really anything that important to talk about, but it's just kind of, you know, hey, how are you? Did you have a good day? What do you think about that rainstorm that we had last night? Those like loose connections that you make through those informal communications, those are the things that are going to make you succeed in this lifetime. It's also very, very important to lighten up. You're coming from a lifetime in which you were a very serious sort of person. In this lifetime, you've got to laugh. Like, you've got to laugh, just make jokes, live like amongst the regular people, and I don't know, just enjoy those regular things. I mean, one thing that's coming to mind for me is like the new sort of Starbucks Frappuccino, like the unicorn one or whatever it is right now. Like, you want to go there and you want to try that with everybody else that's trying it, and just to experience it because it's what people are doing in your local community. That is going to be good karma for you. So you want to look to your North Node sign to know what sort of energy you're meant to become and embody. And then with your North Node in the third house, you may find that you eventually become an expert in whatever sort of subject or energy is indicated by your North Node sign. And then you may be called to teach that to a general audience with North Node in the third house, so to be able to just teach it to regular people. So let's say that your North Node is in Pisces, and maybe you become an expert at intuition and how to surrender and synchronicities and even how to achieve like a Christ consciousness and some of these complicated topics. Like, if your North Node was in the third house and it's Pisces, then you need to be able to figure out, how could I teach that to a 5-year-old, like in a way that they're going to understand. What is the version of God for a 5-year-old? And that's what you need to do with your North Node, is be able to just teach to random people on the streets. Not to say that you need to go around and teach to random people on the streets, but a person like that would need to be able to understand your wisdom and your message. And you may even find with this placement that you do really well teaching kids or in any sort of teaching field. Send emails and check in with people as well. So let's say with this placement that your coworker said, you know what I'm going to do this weekend? I'm going to go to the pie factory and I'm going to try that new peach cobbler. Now, this might be something that typically you would write off, but with North Node in the third house, you know, it's a good idea to actually send a text or an email to that coworker and say, hey, you know, how was that peach cobbler? Was it as good as what you were expecting? And just pay attention to the little details that people share with you and follow up on those details. Like, especially if you're trying to rise to the top in your career or you're trying to get a job or something like that, it's paying attention to these little details, checking in, sending that email, making that call, sending that text, sending that card. I feel like the cards are very third house, like sending those little birthday cards, paying attention to the little details, sending the Valentine's Day cards, whatever, like that is going to be good karma for you, especially sending them to family, people that you know, like nurturing those relationships with the friends or people that went to the same school as you when you were a little kid. That type of stuff is going to be very important. Adopt the mindset of being a lifelong learner. Even if you are an expert in your field, try to stay really connected to what's new, what are people saying, what are the regular people saying about your specialty or your craft, what do they want? You know, ask people, what do you want? Like, let's say that, you know, you did make a product. Let's say that you wrote a book or something like that. You want to ask people, what's of interest to you in this book? Or if you made a product, you know, how are people actually using it? Adapt it to the way that people are using it in your community, and just constantly know that there's always more to learn, and that the more that you learn, the more that you're open to even paying attention to even the silly little things that are not that significant or not that intelligent, like, but just the little things that people are saying and doing, the more successful that you're going to be. My mantra for all of you with your North Node in the 3rd house is, there's so much to learn right here. There's so much to learn right here. So open your eyes, look at what's right in front of you in your immediate environment, and try to gather the little facts and details and conversation about what's right there, right in front of you. And that's gonna be a way to really come quickly into alignment with your North Node in the 3rd house. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and many blessings to you on your journey ahead. Namaste and goodbye.